What day did the conversation take place?
I'd have to look back at my notes on that, sir.
You've got notes on that?
I'd have to try to find them. I'm not
Why did you say you had notes if you don't think you have notes?
Sir, please.
Please.
I don't.
Please. Do you have notes or don't you have notes?
I don't know.
I don't know. Joining us now is Congressman Peter Roskam. You know, Peter Roskam, the interesting thing about this is everybody from the IRS lies to Congress. All the main people have lied to Congress, in some cases for a couple of years. So you're asking this guy, Miller, about notes is a germane and relevant question.
Look, this guy today, Larry, completely underperformed. If I were the IRS, this is what I would do. I would come into Congress and I'd say, we misled you and we apologize. We sorted people and we targeted them and we apologize. Here's who did it. Here's how we're going to fix this in the future. And all of the air begins to come out of this. But instead, what does Commissioner Miller do? He denies misleading Congress. He parses at best. He doesn't like the characterization of the word targeting, even though the Inspector General uses it 16 times in their report. And look, there are more questions than answers that came out of this hearing today, and it's not helpful. And I was jarred, actually. I was jarred when he said that he thinks they have the legal authority to target Americans. That's unsettling. And look, the country's not going to stand for it.
Well, don't you think this whole thing was a cover-up? That's what they wanted. Now they had to break it open because of the IG. But the whole thing was basically a cover-up. Isn't that where this is going to lead?
Oh, look, that's clearly the direction that this is all going. In other words, at some point there was a decision that was made in the Internal Revenue Service to target conservative groups. That happened, notwithstanding all the parsing that the IRS has now come up with. And then the question, who is it that created the environment where this was thought to please superiors? And who were the superiors that they were trying to please? And that's where we really need to get further into this. And this whole notion of planted questions with the AABA is an absurdity.
Go with that, the planted question. This is this Lois Lerner, who they knew the IG was coming out the following week. This was, what, 2 Fridays ago. So they had deliberately a plant in the American Bar Association so Lerner could break the news. Now, what did this guy Miller have to say about that? I mean, that's about as crooked as it gets.
It was pathetic. I mean, I was embarrassed for him. So he admits that he's involved in this scheme with Lerner to come up with this plan. Why they didn't come forward and address Congress, he said, we tried to get on the calendar. I mean, it's like, it is completely underwhelming. So, look, the IRS is eroding its confidence with the American public. It's got no credibility right now with the United States House of Representatives on a bipartisan basis. I mean, there were Democrats that were sort of defending a little bit, but it was not a full-throated defense. They were very critical of how the IRS has handled this. And now moving forward, I think it really makes the case to reform the whole tax code. Take the power and the discretion and the authority away from these people that they hide within a complicated tax code.
All right, let's I think we have another tape. Let's take a listen to what former IRS Commissioner Doug Shulman told your committee back in March of 2012. This is Shulman.
Can you give us assurances that the IRS is not targeting particular groups based on political leanings?
Yes, I can give you assurances. As you know, we pride ourselves on being a non-political, nonpartisan organization. There's absolutely no targeting. This is the kind of back and forth that happens when people apply for 501c4.
All right, that's what's so great about this story. Every one of these officials lies. They all lied, one way or another. This Lois Lerner you mentioned before, who got set up at the American Bar Association, she may have lied 4 times to the Oversight Committee, but I've called for an independent special counsel. Let's bring in Jay Sekulow now. He's the chief counsel with the American Center for Law and Justice. Jay, it's wonderful to see you again. Thanks for helping us out.
Good to see you.
Listen, my friend, if you don't have an independent special counsel, I mean a special counsel narrowly defined to deal with this problem with subpoena power, they are never going to get the truth from anybody. And I want to ask a few questions more about who, but they'll never get to the truth because these IRS people lie.
Well, you don't feel comfortable having the FBI investigate the IRS? I mean, this whole thing's absurd. And, of course, the president's going to push back on a special counsel, which is exactly what should take place here. But the reality is, and I think we've got to be clear about this, the lying of the IRS, the hypocrisy, the set-up questions, followed by these absurd performances today, should make everybody, right, left, and center, stand up and take notice that we've got a serious problem. We've got a government agency, probably the most powerful government agency in our country that affects the everyday lives of Americans, and they are completely without a rudder and really causing harm to the American people.
So, Jay,
and to the president, I might add.
Jay, you tell me, I'm not the lawyer. If Neil Woolman, the Deputy Treasury Secretary, who was an Obama appointee, that's a big job, the Deputy Treasury Secretary, if he was told about the audit, all right, not the conclusions of the audit, not the full audit, but he knew about the audit in June of 2012 before the election, can he be subpoenaed by a special counsel to say what he did next, who he talked to? Did he go across the street to the White House and talk to the White House General Counsel? Did he talk to the Chief of Staff? Did he talk to the political office? I want to know what Woolman did with that information.
I mean, of course the special counsel would have the right to that information, but take it a step further. It's hard for me to believe that when the White House counsel's office was notified on April 22nd that nobody bothered to tell the president, by the way, in a few days, there's going to be an Inspector General's report that's going to say your Internal Revenue Service, Mr. President, was targeting conservatives prior to the election of 2012, and nobody bothered to tell the President of the United States. And, of course, we don't know what he's really thinking because his answer to the question when he was asked specifically by a reporter what he knew, what the White House knew, he started talking about the Inspector General's report, not whether knowledge in the White House was known about this. It is incomprehensible to me and inconceivable that no one from Treasury, I work for Chief Counsel's Office of the IRS. In fact, Tax Exempt was one of our clients. I was a trial lawyer. It's right when I was out of law school. The idea that this went on with rogue agents and nobody's reporting to anybody's nonsense, there's a lot of lying going on here. We need to call it what it is, and it's lying under oath, I think, in some of these cases. And take it a step further, the president needs to really answer the question he was asked. Did anybody in the White House know what was going on here?
Key.
And, of course, that asks another question. If they didn't, that's pretty bad, too.
Yeah. No one, the way this thing is set up, Peter Roskam, the way this operation is set up, you guys can put him under oath, or I guess the investigating committee can put him under oath, but who knows? To me, you got to have more pressure than that. The other thing, Peter Roskam, I want to ask you about, which is driving me crazy. So the White House is putting this guy in from OMB, Werfel, whatever his name is. He's going to run the IRS for 4 months. Do you realize that? By his own admission. He goes May 22nd and will leave at the end of the fiscal year, September 30th. Now, I ask you, Peter Roskam, can anybody possibly get to the bottom of this rat's nest in the IRS in 4 months? Mind you, they got to run the agency while they're trying to conduct an investigation. No one's going to conduct an investigation unless there's a special counsel. 4 months. It's insanity.
Well, it's an incredibly big challenge now, and that is to get to the bottom of it. There was an important distinction that was made today by Congressman Tim Griffin from Arkansas, and he pointed out, he said, look, this is an Inspector General's audit. It wasn't an investigation. It was an overview, and it was not a deep review. It was not an investigative document, and the Inspector General, when asked, was not forthcoming. I mean, he's not able to disclose if he's doing an investigation. Congressman Griffin came to his own conclusion and said, I think you're doing one. So, look, to Jay's point and to your point, there's a lot more information that has to come out. There are more tools that the Ways and Means Committee has. There's tools that other investigative committees of the House has. And when it all comes down to it, these answers, they're going to come out because the American public is demanding that they come out.
I think they'll come out a lot.
They will be satisfied.
I think they come out a lot better if you have a designated independent special counsel, okay?
Absolutely.
I really do. And Jay Sekulow, just real quick, we're running out of time. I want to know who quarterbacked this whole operation. I want to know who did the targeting. Somebody was quarterbacking it. Maybe it was this Sarah Hall Inger, or what's her name, Sarah Hall, yeah,
right.
Inger, who's now gone over to the Obamacare. Somebody quarterbacked this, Jay, and
Absolutely.
that's what we have to find out. And to me, if you're not subpoenaed and you're not put under oath at the risk of perjury or criminal offense, we will never know. We will never know.
And I think you're absolutely correct. And to take it a step further, today Acting Commissioner Miller knew nobody, knew no names, knew no one that was involved in this. Right. And I've got the letters from the 27 clients I represent. I can tell you who these agents are. In fact, we're going to probably release that Monday because this is really absurd. Everybody that's working on these cases know who the agents are that are involved. And this wasn't some rogue agent in Cincinnati.
Heck no, this is Cincinnati, Washington. I heard from a Latino group last night. They had down in Austin, they were operating this stuff. Anyway, I got to get out of here. You're both Congressman Peter Roskam, as always.
Thanks.
Thank you for helping us. Jay Sekulow, thank you very much for coming back. Now,